What can I say? Now, there's been a bunch of videos already made done throughout the years, because this is not the first rodeo for Italy, but of course this is my new channel. This is the first time that this happens in my YouTube channel, so I have to make a video. And without further ado, let's get to it. Italy had to play the qualifying round against Bosnia and Herzegovina after beating Northern Ireland 2-0 to qualify into the World Cup. And now it's reported that when this happened, when they realized that they weren't going to be facing Wales, they were going to be facing Bosnia and Herzegovina, players from the Italian squad were celebrating, laughing, basically already acting like they had already won it, even though it had been, at this point, 8 years since they last even qualified for a World Cup back in 2014. Now they seem pretty comfortable, but in this game, not even the beautiful food, the beautiful places, the pizzas, the calzones, the pasta penne, no sort of mogging for Calafiori or Maldini highlights were able to save this Italy from going out against a Bosnia and Herzegovina side. What an embarrassment. It's 12 years that they're gonna have to wait to even have an opportunity to potentially qualify for the World Cup. Now, to be fair, I believe they are going to be co-hosting one of the World Cups within the next 10 years. So maybe that's the way they're going to be able to get a World Cup qualifying secure. But like I said, wow. At that point, it's going to be, nearly 2 decades that they had not been able to qualify. So this Italy side has to do a lot to make sure that they're able to compete in the next Euros and to compete or even reach the freaking World Cup this time. Just to give a bit of background information about this Italian side in the qualifiers, they were found in Group I with Norway, Israel, Estonia, and Moldova in the group. And they couldn't top this group. Yes, Norway was moving incredible, but I mean, in the other groups you had Spain with Turkey. We know how good Turkey can be and how they can complicate it, and they did their job. On the other side, you got Germany, Slovakia. They did their best, right? But Germany is clearly Germany. What my point is, Italy had the opportunity. And even then, yes, Norway was a better side. I think they only dropped points against Norway, and they got clapped up pretty bad against them. I think it was like a 3-0 defeat to them. They were facing North Ireland. Who in the world is losing to Northern Ireland? No disrespect. And sure enough, they were able to get a result. They won, I believe it was 2-0. Then they go ahead, and it's between Wales and Bosnia and Herzegovina. As I said, that Bosnia kind of went in and win against this Wales side. I think they went to penalties. And Italy just had to beat Bosnia and Herzegovina. They had the better players on the field. Bosnia and Herzegovina still had a 40-year-old Edin Dzeko in their side. And yeah, people just had Italy qualifying because, I mean, of course, they're still going to want it. That we know that the Italians occasionally can rise to the occasion, and nobody was thinking, oh, these guys are not going to qualify for a 3rd straight time in a row. But look what happened. Now we can dive into the game. There's not many notes that I want to talk about. Mainly, this team just looked completely lethargic. I think this Italian side just thought that they were Italy, their quality, they were gonna supersede the Bosnia and Herzegovina side. And these guys were quite literally jogging back to their positions. Jogging, they weren't even pressing. They were just letting Bosnia and Herzegovina have all the time they wanted in the ball and play around them. And that was even with 11 men. That's not even when Bastoni came out. It honestly did not look like this Italy side wanted to go to the World Cup. But not only that, the only time that this Italian side decided to press, it was a Retegui. Yeah, I think it was Retegui who made a press, made the goalkeeper panic, passes it into Fratesi, I believe. Fratesi gives it to Kane, scores a golazo, a banger. The one time that these guys decide to press, the one time that they try to be proactive, and look what they get. But then the rest of the game, once again, drop back, just let them play around us. They're able to, we don't have to press. There's no need to close the spaces real quickly. No, let me just jog to my position. Let me just look at the guy, jockey. And Bosnia was winning every header, getting a shot off every single time. I mean, Donnarumma was having 10 saves, man. And then in the 30-something minute, of course, Bastoni gets a red card. A very stupid red card. Now, a lot of people are talking about. If you watch the Beyond the Full-Time podcast that was released today, go ahead and it's right here. I'll put it right here. You can't click it, but go to the comments. Go to the description and click on the Beyond the Full-Time podcast. We'll talk about the Italian side. Bastoni, he is rash. He is not the quickest. He is not a bad center back. But the reason they put him as the center back was because they clearly trusted him to do the right decision. This guy is not a 20-year-old rash defender. Oh, he's not experienced. Bro, this guy has Champions League experience. 2 Champions League final under his belt. And you trust him. You trust him to do the right decisions. You trust him to lead that back line of Italy. But he pulls one of these. Absolutely incredibly stupid foul that he commits. First of all, I think he would have probably been able to catch up to that fella. And even if he couldn't, he's facing one of the best goalkeepers in the world in Gigi Donnarumma. So let him have a goal. Let him see if he's able to beat Donnarumma. He beats him. Oh well, it's 1-1. We're back in level terms. That just means you still have 11 men. You have a better team overall on paper at least. Then this Bosnia and Herzegovina side, just do not get a red card. And sure enough, he just gets a red card 30 minutes. And even with that, with the quality that this team has, they should be dominating the game. They should be on their toes. They have Tonali, a player who's one of the most active players in that Newcastle side. In a Newcastle side that is known for being physical, that's known for closing spaces quick. You got Locatelli, same thing. But I'm telling you, the entire team looked like they didn't want to press, like they didn't want to win. But anyways, after that red card, they go drop back. They continue to let Bosnia and Herzegovina do their thing. And it's not like this Italy side has the best defense ever. As I said, even before the red card, they were winning every single header. They were freaking shooting every single time they could because no Italian player was on them at any time. So they could do whatever they wanted with the ball, and it caught up to them. Bosnia gets a cross in, and they're able to score. Gigi Donnarumma couldn't save it. He was close to saving it, but couldn't save it. And everything is 1-1. And the pressure is on for Italy. We know what this Italian side has been through. And what happens? Absolutely nothing, man. It continues to be Bosnia and Herzegovina. There's one opportunity that Moise Kean has on a 1v1 and completely skies it. But it was one opportunity in the entire game. And that was an insane run that he put. So you can't put that much blame on Moise Kean. I put the blame for this specific game on the manager. It's clear that he told the players to drop back, to not be as intense, to play the way that they did. But on the other hand, you could tell that there was no passion, no want from these Italian players to win. Nicolo Barella, I did not see him in the entirety of the game. He got subbed out in the 80th minute or something. I'm telling you, I don't remember him touching the ball a single time. The defensive midfielders, the Tonalis and Locatellis, I don't remember them recovering any balls. And if they did, it was occasional times where they decided to put the pressure on Herzegovina. But at no point did Herzegovina have to do anything crazy to get a goal. The crosses were working out, as I said. Embarrassing performance by this Italian side. And freaking Bosnia and Herzegovina, they were not backing out. They came out to win this game. They continued pushing. They brought in this 18-year-old number 19. I'm not even gonna pronounce his last name because I am gonna completely butcher it. But this guy was torturing whoever was on that left-hand side. They couldn't put a foot on them. They couldn't put a stop on that guy. Same thing on that other side with number 20. So this Italian side, like I said, completely lets them play. Now, Italy tried to make some substitutions of their own, bringing in Exposito, the prodigy, the prospect from Inter Milan, and he honestly didn't look bad. They also brought in Palestra. Not bad subs. They actually played. They probably should have started, honestly. But again, they barely got any opportunities from the midfield, which is exactly what you want your midfielders to try and do. And this game went on to penalties. And I don't know why. I was watching it with Dario, and you could sense it that they were gonna they weren't gonna win this penalty shootout. There was complete nervousness. And on top of that, they bring in the youngster Exposito to shoot the first penalty, and he misses. There was too much pressure. There was a lot of pressure. As I said, 8 years in the making for this moment to try and make it into the World Cup. He misses. Bosnia scores, and everything ends at the end with a penalty that Donnarumma gets the hands to, but it slips. Once again, the pressure, like these guys, there was too much pressure for this Italian team, and they folded and they lose to Bosnia-Herzegovina. And Bosnia, great performance by their wingers. They are into the final they're into the World Cup, a place that Italy would have loved to been in. Now I want to get into some of the issues that I think is plaguing this Italian federation in general. So there seems to be a common trope where Italian sides tend to be more defensive, which is completely true actually. I took a look at the teams and the way that they play. 12 out of the 20 teams play a 3-back. In Liga, only 4 of them play a 3-back. And on top of that, it's not about the formation, right? It's about how you play that formation. Because you can have free-flying fullbacks or wingbacks going all the way. Very offensive, very cutthroat. But in this case, these guys are terrorismo. One of them being AC Milan. You know how Allegri loves to play, and they're one of the main culprits for this thing. So you have no creative outlets on the wing. I mean, taking once again Milan as an example, your best creative players, of course, Modric is a DM, but he's not even Italian, but it's fine. Then you have Pulisic and Leao, who you don't really give them the opportunity to go out wide. They're kind of positioned as strikers, positioned to move around in that center area. But the approach is a defensive approach by Allegri. Now, Italy as a side, they've been very dependent on having elite midfielders. I mean, like I said, they've been characterized for it being that defensive side, Catenaccio, and you had players like Roberto Baggio, right? You had players like Pirlo, you had players like Marchisio, players who could run you for days, but you had creative players in that. Now, the only creative midfield that I can think of is Barella, and as I said, he did absolutely nothing in this game. And based on some research, actually, it is a lot easier to get a winger to be creative, to generate your space, because they're less of a liability. If they lose the ball, you have a whole team behind them. Then it's a lot harder to get a creative midfielder. And Italy are clearly struggling for that. But they're not platforming their teams, they're developing to be wingers, to have wingers. A curious case is Di Marco. That guy's a winger. You can tell that guy's a winger. He does not belong as a wingback, but of course he was, because of the development, he was placed in this way. Now imagine, bro, he's already creative. He's the most creative player on this Italian side. And now imagine if this guy was platformed to be a winger. I mean, you have a curious case like Chiesa, who actually grew up being a winger, and look how good he turned out to be. Of course, then he fell off and stuff, but regardless, that 2020 Chiesa was insane, and he was a pure winger. As I said, imagine Di Marco as a winger if he would have focused his entire career as a winger, not as a wingback. But this whole wingback, the 3-back, all of this, it stems from the stubbornness from the Italian Federation to not change. Of course, there's the Roberto Baggio files that actually were advocating for, apparently he was advocating for a more offensive, to develop creative players, to move away from that defensive style and start developing the youngsters, keep the youngsters in Italy, give them opportunity, improve the development of the youngsters to make this Italian side what it can be, which is a powerhouse of football. But it was rejected, and then shortly after, he just completely dips from the federation, and now they're in the state that they are now. Now, of course, Italian teams in general have incredible economic constraints. Of course, they don't even have, most of the teams there don't even own their stadiums. The municipalities are the ones that own the stadiums, and although they do get the revenue, they gotta pay rent for that stadium. So they don't get completely 100% of the revenue that stadium generates, so they're very limited. On top of that, if you want to expand or change or move stadiums or demolish the stadiums, you got to go through intense bureaucracies. This takes years, and they don't own the stadium, so they have to go through all kinds of things. So it results in the state that these stadiums are now, like the San Siro, historic, beautiful stadium, but it looks like the Old Trafford, right? Absolutely no investment in improving that 70-year-old stadium. And as I said, the World Cup is going to be hosted there in a bit, so FIFA's already putting pressure on Italy to improve those stadiums. But anyways guys, those are kind of my key pointers when it comes to Italian football in general as a federation, what I think is going on, and some factors that I should not think. I know this, you see this happening, right? But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all on the next one.